So, what do we know about the Zelda series and what's coming out in the series for the next year or so? Weirdly enough, we know very little about what Zelda has coming. The only thing that we know is coming for sure at some point is Breath of the Wild sequel. Now, here's where the topic of this video should probably begin. I've heard a weird amount of rumours over the past few months that we'll definitely be seeing a big celebration of the Zelda series in 2021. I personally think that the reason for these rumours is almost most definitely the announcement of Mario's 35th anniversary, and the massive celebration that Nintendo have lined up for it until February. I mean, come on. In the space of 6 months by February, Mario would have had 4 ports of previously established games, a built-in DLC for one of the ports. He'll have had a gimmicky Mario Kart game come out that's guaranteed to rake in the dough, I'll note, and a Battle Royale game similar to Tetris 99. And let's not forget that he'll also have had a huge orchestra and a ton of in-game events in games like Smash and Splatoon. Unfortunately, down to our current situation, the franchise hasn't been celebrated as much as I think Nintendo intended it for it to be. There was supposed to be a whole gig for Mario in the E3 hall, but of course E3 never happened. So enough Mario talk. I just thought I'd give some context to all of these rumours, and what I actually think caused them in the first place. We know Breath of the Wild 2 is most likely coming next year. It could definitely come out in 2022, but for this section of the video, let's consider that Breath of the Wild 2 comes out in November next year. A month I think we could see the game in. Well, my first thought to bring up is the same as I brought up in my last video, so I am sorry if I do sound like a broken record, but Mario is Mario. Nintendo absolutely adores Mario. Over any other mascot for the company, Mario stands tall over all others. He is the definitive poster child for Nintendo, and is one of the biggest reasons for gaming becoming a massive sector of the world in the States and some other territories. While an absolute huge number of the Nintendo fanbase love the Zelda series, I don't think that it's worthy of such a big celebration of the series in Nintendo's eyes. Many of these so-called rumours state that The Legend of Zelda will have a 35th anniversary celebration similar to Mario's. This means that we'd get Breath of the Wild in November, and would get some sort of remaster collection similar to Mario's collection in a month, like July or something like that. It's said that the 3 games that would be involved in the collection would be Twilight Princess HD, Wind Waker HD and Skyward Sword. So, first of all, let's talk about some reasons why I don't think this is possible at all. Well, doesn't my first point seem kind of obvious? Did you just hear the words that came out of my mouth? Okay, now wait. Yeah, well, they ported Mario Galaxy, Sunshine and 64. In my own personal experience, Zelda games seem to last longer, and they definitely take much more time to achieve 100% completion than most Mario games in my opinion. I just can't see them taking 3 games that are all around 20 to 30 hours in length each and putting them all into one collection. I know I'm a pessimist, but you have to see the point I'm trying to get across here. The other thing when comparing this theoretical collection and the Mario collection is that all of those games were kind of fairly old. One on the N64, one on the GameCube and one on the Wii. But with the 3 Zelda games that seem to be tied to these rumours, they've all been released or have had re-releases already that could still be selling in the last decade. I just personally think that they've surprised people with ports of a few old games for a series on a 35th anniversary already. I don't think Nintendo will be that predictable. Making it the second year in a row that they've done it would make them very predictable in future. Very final thing that I can think of off the top of my head is that we know Breath of the Wild 2 is in development and is most likely coming very close to the end of its development now, meaning that it will be teased kinda soon. Well, doesn't that just speak for itself? The Zelda team have had a lot to do. And to be completely honest, I'd rather have the team hard at work on the next main game rather than porting the old games. Though, I do think they should still do some sort of ports at some point. Okay, let's bring some positivity to the conversation. Why do I think that it is possible? And how do I imagine it panning out? Well, as I've said in the past, Wind Waker was first released on the GameCube but came back for the Wii U with a HD variant. It's the exact same situation with Twilight Princess, originally released for the Wii and the GameCube, but came back for the Wii U with a HD variant. The only outlier here is Skyward Sword. The game came out on the Wii in 2011 and hasn't come back for another version just yet, but we'll talk more about that later. All in all, I just think that in general the 3 ports are so easy to make that the collection would basically print money, much like the Mario 3D collection did in September. All they would have to do is just port some old games. In Wind Waker and Twilight Princess's case, the ports would be weirdly easy. Just port the HD versions of the games that were on the Wii U. For Skyward Sword it would be slightly harder, but definitely wouldn't be impossible. It'd take the same amount of effort as it did to rescale and change the motion controls of Mario Galaxy's port on the collection. Again, I'll talk about Skyward Sword specifically slightly more later on. Overall though, I do think that this idea isn't impossible. While them doing it this year makes me think that they won't do the same thing next year, it's technically a point that it could happen. Do you really want my opinion on if Nintendo will do a 35th anniversary collection for Zelda? Well, I personally think that we have near to no chance of getting it. Nintendo are possibly the most unpredictable gaming company in the world, not just in a gameplay sense, but also in a business sense. So that personally makes me think that there will not be a collection. But do not let that stop you from wanting a collection, because they definitely could do that sort of thing. Instead, now let me talk about the most viable option for Zelda in 2021. I think that in February we will get a Zelda 35th anniversary direct, despite everything that I've said in this video, and I think we will get two things. The first thing and the most important thing to many people will be the first official trailer and name of Breath of the Wild sequel, and then they'll surprise us with something that was heavily rumoured in the middle of this year. I think that we'll get Skyward Sword HD on the Switch. Let's talk about a theoretical Skyward Sword HD a little bit. First, the game came out 10 years ago, and this easily fits the pattern with the HD ports of Zelda games that first started during the Wii U era. I think that it'll sort out the Wii's motion control similarly to Mario Galaxy as I mentioned earlier. Maybe moving the right stick and pressing Y signals exactly where you'd like to throw your sword attacks. This means there'll be no use for the motion controls. However, for the people who do want to play like it was meant to be played, there's the option to turn motion controls on and off, making a good experience for new and old players alike. Both Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD had certain changes to either streamline the gameplay of the original game, or just added entirely new content, which was a surprise for sure, but I'm almost certain we'd see a similar sort of thing here, and I think that in some way the game would reference Breath of the Wild with its new area, especially since Skyward Sword introduced a lot of stuff that was improved upon in Breath of the Wild, with the biggest changes being in the stamina system. And one final thing is that these sorts of ports could be handled by Grezzo in small part, so that means it wouldn't take the Zelda team to do literally anything, something I'd appreciate while we wait for Breath of the Wild 2. I've been talking about the obvious stuff, like Breath of the Wild 2 coming out, honouring 10 years of Skyward Sword being released. Along with that, Skyward Sword HD has the chance of coming out, or perhaps even a fully fledged Zelda 35th anniversary collection. But I haven't dug into the smaller stuff that Mario seems to have gotten this year. I mentioned it at the beginning, and it's the obvious inclusion of certain events in other games that honour the anniversary of Zelda. Out of all the things on this list, I think that Nintendo will bank on this the most. First of all, let's look at E3. If E3 somehow happens next year, then I think that Link and Zelda could have a huge presence. A Breath of the Wild 2 trailer will probably drop if E3 is on, and any other Zelda news is just a massive bonus. You never know when there can be another beloved game like the Oracle games remade, so I think we could see a huge presence at the series at other events. There could be an orchestra at the Game Awards, but that's perhaps getting a little bit too speculative for things that don't matter. My biggest prediction for Zelda in 2021 is that we'll probably get another Zelda representative in Smash Bros. Ultimate. It would make sense after Age of Calamity coming out, and could definitely boost the sales of the long-awaited Breath of the Wild 2. I also think that events such as Splatfests in Splatoon and tournaments in Smash would be a no-brainer. So while I can't really come up with a definitive answer on whether Nintendo will do anything for Zelda's 35th anniversary, here I've compiled a list of stuff that definitely could happen if the company decides to honour their series in the same way that they have for Mario. And to be honest, any amount of Zelda is a good amount of Zelda. Tell me in the comments whether you think we'll get any Zelda news next year. What do you think it'll be if you think there's going to be some news? Leave it down there. If you did enjoy, then please subscribe and like the video. Thank you so much to the people on screen. These are all my Patreon supporters, and they're all amazing people. So if you'd like to join them, then find the link to my Patreon in the description. With that link, there's also my other social medias down there too. On my Twitter, I have my Discord on my pinned tweet, so join if you want to. With that out of the way, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week for a Christmas related video.